There's a Bible verse I think about sometimes. Many times. It goes, and I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send? Whom shall I send? And who will go for us? Go for us.
The idea is like a virus. Silly.
I said, here am I. Send me. Send me.
Welcome back. We are in our discussion on the prophets of fire. We have a changing of the guard from Elijah to Elisha. I'll try and keep that as clear as I can. Where we last left our biblical heroes, Elijah wasn't doing so good. He had a pity party on top of a mountain. Yahweh gave him what he was begging for, and that was retirement. And I'm not going to pile on Elijah and his flaws. They seem to have multiplied and started rolling downhill towards the end, but we got new life in this chapter. And Elijah, he gets his moxie back a little bit. He's okay with being retired. And with like most stories of these two, his retirement party doesn't go like any other biblical hero's retirement party. He is always amplified and intensified. And as we get closer, he gets closer to spending eternity with God in the spiritual realm, the tempo ramps up. Elijah's about to experience something that almost no one on battlefield earth gets to experience. Only Enoch knows what this sensation is like. According to Scripture, we've got a prophet literally taken up into the heavens, okay? Not experiencing the pangs of death, the death rattle, a truly awe-inspiring experience. We aren't there yet. This episode will focus on the transfer of power, okay? The handing of the baton to the new blood, and watching God as he marches on with his plans for redemption for us. He can use anyone and everyone he wants to, okay? And whoever is ready to lay their life down and ready to do some heavy kingdom work, they're in. So now Elisha is no exception. He doesn't get the love that most of the other prophets do. I don't know why, and myself included on this. I didn't know as much about him as I knew about everyone else, but this guy is huge on miracles. The biggest miracle guy in the Bible. Some say he did double the miracles that Elijah did. From my research, he did more, way more. But as listeners of the cast know, I won't focus on the miracles. I want you to read it for yourself. I want to get into the character study, the methods of these men, temperament, their passions, flaws, ego, bad tempers, glory, their motor. Because Elisha, dude, like NFL scouts would say, this guy has a high motor, okay? Scouts usually say that of a description of some scrappy, smaller guy from a directional school like Southwestern Louisiana Tech or something like that, right? Some guy that just won't stop. That's their gift, and that's him. And if he had the size and ability of the Bama boys, you know, he'd be your first pick in the draft of most of the prophets. But that just ain't how it works out. That's not how God designs people. It's always hands and feet, always hands and feet. And with the calling of Elisha, as he is working the fields like a maniac, I'll get into that. He doesn't even plow mules the way that a normal person was. And that is where Elijah the prophet comes over the hill to get him to work. So without further ado, let's get into it. We go back to 1 Kings chapter 19. So we've had Yahweh dictate to Elijah who he wants to take his place now, right? Elijah said, no more, Yahweh, I can't do this anymore. So we've got a new king in Syria, that's Hazael. A new king in Israel, and that is Jehu. And a new prophet of the Lord, and that's Elisha. So let's quote it to bring it up to speed. The text says, quote, this is Yahweh speaking to Elijah here. Go, return from your way to the wilderness of Damascus, and when you arrive, you shall anoint Hazael to be king over Syria, and Jehu, the son of Nimshi, you shall appoint him king over Israel. And Elisha, the son of Shaphat, you shall appoint him to be prophet in your place. And the one who escapes the sword of Hazael will be put to death by Jehu. And the one who escapes the sword of Jehu shall be put to death by Elisha. Yet I will leave 7,000 in Israel, all who have not bowed the knee to Baal or kissed the ring. Remember that part from the last episode? That was kind of a big deal, okay? So back to the text. So he departed from there. He found Elisha, son of Shaphat, who was, listen to this, plowing 12 yoke of oxen in front of him. And he was with the 12th. And Elijah passed him by. There's a little mountain scene right there. And he cast his cloak upon him. And he, Elisha, left the oxen and ran to Elijah. End quote. All right, I got to stop right there because this is jam-packed with good stuff that you might have missed, that I missed until I studied into it. So let me start with the 12 yoke of oxen. Those are teams of oxen, okay? That's 24 oxen that Elisha is driving. Do you know how hard that is? That is insane. I had to look it up to even see if this was technically humanly possible, and it is, barely. It takes incredible skill, a lot of organization. Logistically, it's kind of a nightmare, and it depends a lot on the condition of the soil. So let's say that Elisha sees that the soil could possibly handle the toil of these oxen. He doesn't take it easy on an easy soil day. He gets 12 teams of oxen and goes to work. That is incredible upon itself. That would stand out. If you were in that time frame, that would stand out to you in the story. Also, it shows that's a ton of wealth, man. That's a large team of oxen. Not a lot of people have that. And I'm not putting that lightly. Like Elisha or his father or grandfather have built a nice little lot for themselves. And they seem to have worked hard. They have discipline financially and have multiplied their wealth through the generations. They're rich, is what I'm trying to say. They're loaded. So what happens next, take that into account also. But first, let me harp on some of the beauty and symbolism here in this language, like I always do. I want your antennas to go up when you start reading these things. These little Easter eggs pop up everywhere. How about when Elijah says he passed him by and he cast his cloak upon him? You guys tracking with me yet? It's passes by. Any other times you remember God passing by in Scripture? You better know one, or I'm going to stop this podcast. Right? I'll turn the car around right now if you don't know this one. Moses on the mountain, right? He asked God, show me your glory, and it says Yahweh passed him by. He just did the same thing with Elijah, right? Remember that. How about that one? When Elijah, he passed by Elijah as well. Okay, this is kind of a B cut right here, but Job is describing Yahweh, and he says, quote, he who removes mountains, and they know it not. When he overturns them in his anger, he shakes the earth out of its place, and its pillars tremble. Who commands the sun, and it does not rise? Who seals up the stars? Who alone stretches out the heavens and tramples the waves of the sea? Chaos Dragon. Who made Bria and Orion and Pleiades and the chambers of the south? Behold, he passes by me, and I see him not. End quote. Don't like that one? All right, New Testament. Let's go to that. You guys love the New Testament, right? Remember Jesus walking on the sea, showing his power over the chaos waters? Mark says it like this, quote, and about the fourth watch of the night, he came to them walking on the sea. He meant to pass them by. When they saw him walking on the sea, they thought it was a ghost, and they cried out, for they all saw him and were terrified. End quote. Come on, man. You see that, dude? The Bible's amazing, man. You should read the Bible. Passing by is like, it's like a divine moment, okay? It's like a glimpse of the unseen realm, a peek at heavenly things, because he can't show it all to you because you'll freak out, okay? Your brain, it can't handle it. I can't handle it. Too much, Yahweh, as Elijah loved to say. So when Elijah passes by Elisha, you're supposed to see a little divine cosmic moment there between two powerful beings here, and they're using it for good. It's an Eden pocket. It's a little Eden pocket. Heaven and earth overlapping. And then it says he casts his cloak on him. Your Bible might say mantle. Mine said mantle. It's his coat. It's his outer garment, and he casts it. He hurls this thing at Elijah, like casting lots, the ancient dice being wrote. He throws his jacket on him, okay? You're it now, son. You're the guy. You are the new mouthpiece of God, and it's yours. Your time is now. And Elisha, dude, he doesn't bat an eye. This is a huge honor. It's going to be a very hard life for Rich Boy here, but he wants it, man. He was built for this. He says to Elijah, let me kiss my mom and dad goodbye, and then let's roll, okay? And just to solidify how ready Elisha was, you know what he does next? The text says he took the 24 oxen he just had, he sacrifices them, all of them, and he gave the meat to all the people in the town. Leviticus fans, you see the offering there? Let's have a picnic with the divine before I go. None of this is mine in the first place, so take it. Let's celebrate before I go off. Dude, do you know how much 24 oxen are worth at this time? That's the ability to till the whole land, the whole economy. That's gone. Sorry, Dad. That's like Jesus coming back today, walking up to a rich guy. There's a Lambo. There's a Ferrari. There's a Bentley in the driveway. And Jesus says, follow me. And you go kiss mom and dad goodbye. And right before you leave, you light those beautiful machines on fire. That's his best way I can put it. Deux, dude, see ya. I'm off to my new life. It's burning the ships. You guys know that concept, burning the ships for king and country? That's like it's a concept from the Vikings. Like it's a military. They just set sail across the sea. They get out to the land that they're about to conquer, and the military leaders burn the ships. Literally, no backup plan, no plan B. We're all in. We win or we die. That's what's happening. He's burning it to the ground and letting the fire warm his back as he goes. That's how Elisha rolls into this role, dude. It's okay. This is good stuff, man. Sorry. All right. So there's so much of these stories. I got to keep going. Let's get to the calling up of Elijah. Okay. Most of you know this story. Called up in the. This is picking up in 2 Kings 2. If you're following along, it starts out with a precursor from the author. He says that Elijah was about to be taken up in a whirlwind, a tornado, a twister. Okay. And Elijah are walking from city to city. It seems like, think of a doctor making their rounds. You know, this happens all the time. Elijah's hitting all his hot spots before he leaves, saying goodbye to everybody. Farewell tour. All right. Prophets do this all the time. They go in circles from town to town. Jesus did the exact same thing. This is Elijah's final walkabout. And Elisha goes with him, of course. And they go to Bethel first. Elijah tells Elisha, you stay here. I got to go to another spot. And Elisha says, I'm not leaving. I'm kind of riffing here, but just read it for yourself. Then they go to Jericho. Same thing. Elijah says, hey, stay here. And Elisha says, I'm not leaving. I'm with you. And then they go to the Jordan River. Elijah says, stay here. Elisha says, respectfully, sir, I'm not going to stop. And this is quite annoying to Elijah, okay? It's like a little brother that you can't shake when you're trying to hang with your friends, and your mom's like, you got to take your little brother with you, right? They come up to the Jordan River. Elijah takes off his outer jacket. He strikes the waters of the Jordan River, and guess what the waters do? Oh, I'm sorry. They part. Just like, hello, Moses. Hello, Noah. Same thing. They cross, they separate, and he crosses on dry land. He struck the chaos waters, and there's control, right? So moving on. Elijah can't shake this guy. It's kind of getting on his nerves. So let me die in peace, man. You know what I mean? Like, just leave me alone. Leave me alone. Or it could be maybe he's encouraged by his actions, his relentlessness. I don't know. Nevertheless, Elijah asks his protege a question. He says, quote, ask what you shall from me before I am taken from you, end quote. You can take that one of two ways. Some seem to think this is a calm exchange, teacher to student. Ask of me what you need. You've proved your worth, grasshopper, okay? Now ask what you're wanting to ask as a parting gift. Others see it as, it's not in Hebrew, but there's an exclamation point there. It's kind of like more of the effect of, Elisha, what do you want, man? What? Why do you keep hanging around? So just meditate on that. I don't know. I just like looking at that. So here's how Elisha responds to that question. He has a very big request. Elisha says, quote, let there be a double portion of your spirit on me. And Elijah says, you have asked a very hard thing. Yet if you see me as I'm being taken off, it shall be so. But if you do not see me, it will not be so. And they went on their way, end quote. Okay, let's sit on that for a moment. First of all, in the biblical worldview, who typically gets the double portion, right? It's the firstborn. This is an inheritance request, a double of abundance, promise of abundance. You think back to all the firstborn stories from Genesis, lots of firstborns either accepting their blessing or stealing their blessing if they're the secondborn. Even think of the prodigal son story from Jesus and the way the firstborn is versus the second. I can't get into that, but that's beautiful. Something to go with, but more so, there's a spot in this reply from Elijah that we have hijacked as Christians, as believers now. This is not a hard thing for God. Okay? This is not a tough ask for Yahweh to give extra blessings to an image bearer. God's cracked some bigger nuts than that, and giving Elisha a double portion of Elijah that's a hell of a lot of spirit to get on one person. In my reading, Elijah had the most spirit, maybe outside of Moses, but he did more miracles. And Elisha's like, give me double that, man. That's a lot of God in your ear. And I know we all want to have God, but the toil of a prophet is tough, man. To have to take this message, but he wants double that, double his mind, double his energy. And it's like, I want to know God twice as much as you do. It's a beautiful request. It feels like Elisha's telling his prophet. Elisha is telling his student here. He's like, you have no idea what you're asking. This is no picnic, brother. The Hebrew there for that word, you have asked a hard thing. That word for hard thing is kasha. So this word is used elsewhere in Scripture. It means severe, painful. It's used to describe childbirth. It's a burden. So does that make that's what Elijah's saying. He's like, you have asked a very painful request. I hope you know that, brother. This thing that you asked me is going to be filled with hardships. This won't be difficult for Yahweh. It will be difficult for you. This is going to be tough, man. This ask that you did, it's going to hurt. The path you are asking for is going to be agonizing and excruciating in more ways than you know. That is what you are asking. And Elisha's like, bring it. So that's the point of that quote right there that I really love. So Elisha goes on, you have asked a hard thing. Yet if you see me when I am taken, it shall be so. But if not, you do not see me. Same thing. And then it says they kept walking, and all of a sudden, chariots of fire, horses on fire, separated the two of them. And Elisha went up in a whirlwind into the heavens. So two people are walking down the road, and fire horses pulling a fire buggy rip through the skies. And when they get there, I don't know, a heaven tornado grabs one of them and pulls them up into the unseen realm of the divine. Is that the most cosmic thing? Dude, that's cosmic on a level we'd have no idea what that's like. And it says that Elijah was yelling up to his teacher. He's like, my father, it's the chariots of Israel. He's jacked. It's the chariots of Israel and the horsemen. And then he saw him no more. So, guys, what would you be doing if you were Elisha and your friend just got pulled up in a fire tornado from God? I'd probably be hitting the deck. I might be taking cover. I'd probably be crying, if I'm being honest. But that's the moxie of Elisha. He's jacked, dude. He's pumped. It's like a kid telling their dad, airplane, dad, airplane. Look at that. It's crazy. I don't know why that grabs me, but like that's the energy of Elisha that I've learned to love of this guy. It's like whenever anyone would see a spiritual being come down and have a conversation with somebody, if God sent a messenger down, what's the first thing they always say? Do not be afraid. You want to know why? Because it's terrifying. When a spiritual being comes into your proxy, Elisha's completely unfazed. That's just how this guy works. So his first thing he does a little miracle test, okay, to see if he's got the sauce. Did he get it passed down to Elisha? The text says he takes his clothes and he tears them in two. Please see Jesus in the veil, tears his clothes in two. And the veil of the Holy of Holies. Okay, that's what I just said. So Elijah, he tears his shirt off, Hulk Hogan style, okay? Tears it off, and he takes the jacket from his mentor, and he takes it. He walks to the edge of the Jordan River. Watch this. He says to the skies, where is the Lord, the God of Elijah? And then he struck the waters. And guess what the waters did? They parted side to side. Same thing. Hello, Noah. Hello, Moses. Hello, Jesus. And Elisha crossed over. And then it says that some of the sons of prophets, that's like apprentices, students in training in the prophecy, like disciples in the education and the walk of this community. So they're standing on the other side of the river and they see Elisha do this and him cross over and they say, the spirit of Elijah rests on Elisha. And they came to him and they bowed down to the ground. End quote. New sheriff in town. Elisha's it. New mouthpiece of God. Time to get to work. So that's what this guy is, man. Let me rip through some of these miracles, okay? Again, no other prophet did more miracles than Elisha. Not even close. It's not even close. I don't want to gloss over that. So I want to hit on a few of these and try and bring it home with a lesson that I learned from Elisha and connecting him to Jesus, like I like to do. Okay, so parting of the Jordan River, nailed it. Just cover that. Next is the story in 2 Kings. He purifies water. He throws salt into the spring of Jericho, and he healed the water that was killing the land. He made the land, again, be able to do what? Fruitful and multiply. Come on. It does the same thing with like a soup. There's a poisonous stew that was made for the sons of God, the disciples. He adds flour to the stew, and it's able to nourish the whole crew. He multiplies oil. He met a widow. She had this tiny jar of oil, and he made that oil flow continuously, giving her a way to make a living, pay off all her debts. He supplied bread. Hello, Jesus. He fed a crew of 100 men, 20 loaves of barley, and they had leftovers to spare. You guys see the feeding of the 5,000 on that one, man? And then he healed a man named Naaman. Great story. I'll come back to this. This is an Aramean commander, okay? He's got severe leprosy. He told him to go wash in the Jordan River. Guess how many times he told him to go wash? 7 times. And begrudgingly, Naaman finally does, and he's healed. And he gave water to soldiers. He made a whole valley suddenly fill with clean water. No rain, no flood. He just made the groundwater fill with nourishment. And then that was for the whole armies of Israel and Judah when they were fighting this war in Moab. You guys see the Garden of Eden there? No rain, just perfect water coming up from the earth providing. Moving on, he resurrected a boy from the dead, son of a Shunammite woman. He prophesied the future. He told the future. He told everyone about the death of Ben-Hadad, the rise of Hazazel the king, and the end of a famine. He blinded an entire army. He struck blind the whole army of Syria. He made an axe head float. When somebody had accidentally flung it off, it goes in the water, he makes the thing rise up, and they grab it. Okay, so listen to this. After his death, Elisha died. His body is buried. And later, there's a group of men, one of their buddies died, and they're burying their boy. Okay, they're burying their buddies. And they see a band of raiders coming, and they're like, okay, so they got to quickly get this body in the ground, and they accidentally are digging right on top of where Elisha's grave was, where he was buried. They throw their dead friend. It touches the bones of Elisha, and the guy jumps up. He's right back to life. This guy was doing miracles with his bones, his dead, dry bones. See Ezekiel there? Valley of the dry bones, man. Don't put God in a box. He opened the eyes of his servants. Everyone knows that when there's that huge army of angels, he's with these guys, and they're like, there's more there than here. We're going to die. And Elisha says, I wish these guys could see what I can see. God, show them who is for us. And there is a giant chariots of fire army of heavenly soldiers ready to fight for them. And he lets their eyes be open to it. It's not that they weren't there. They were there. They just couldn't get that sensation. And he gives them a little glimpse of what it's like to carry this, okay? All right, so let me close with Naaman. I'll summarize this story quickly. I'll bring some Jesus in. This story is in 2 Kings 5. If you want the whole detail, I'm not going to read the whole thing. So Naaman, he's a very important man in this community of Assyria. He's the dude. He's very powerful, and he has leprosy. That's a big problem. So a slave girl tells him of this one guy in Israel who can help. She's like, you need to go see this guy. There's this guy named Elisha. He's kind of strange, but you should go see him in Israel. So Naaman does, that's a big deal to in his role. He goes to the house of Elisha. Elisha doesn't even answer the door. He doesn't come to the door. He sends a girl. He sends someone to go. He's like, you go answer the door. And the servant of Elisha tells him what to do. He's like, you go wash in the Jordan River 7 times and you'll be clean. And Naaman's pretty angry about that. That's pretty disrespectful. He doesn't like this report, number one. He doesn't like getting talked to by a slave, but he finally does it. He goes, he dips in the Jordan 7 times, and he is cleaned. He's healed. He is restored. Then he goes back to Elisha, and he says, now I know there is no other God but the Creator God, Yahweh. No true God of anyone except the God in Israel. That is clear. That's clear to him now. And he tries to give Elisha a present as a thank you, which was customary. Elisha says, no, thanks, dude. I don't need that. So Naaman says, okay, fine. One last request. Would it be okay if I take a mule's load of dirt with me back to Syria when I go to my land? This land is holy. I'll kind of get into cosmic geography in my next episode, but there's something cosmic about this land. Can I just take some of this dirt with me when I go? And Elisha's like, yeah. And he's like, oh, also, there's one more thing. I got to go to work tomorrow, Elisha. And so when I get there, it's part of my job. He tells Elisha this thing. He's like, it's part of my job. When I go back, there's this temple for this other god named Raymon. And I have to go into the temple of this god. This god's pretty popular in our land. And many bow the knee to this god, including our king. So the king kind of had... he might have been a feeble king, so it was part of this guy's role. Naaman's role was to go into the temple of this rebel god and kneel with the king to this other god. So he asks Elisha, he says, when I go in there and I bow the knee with the king, is that okay with Yahweh? Because I want to be square with Yahweh. Is Yahweh okay with that? And Elisha says, shalom. So yeah, go in peace. That's fine. Because God knows your heart. You and Yahweh are square. From our perspective in this day and age, we'd like as Jesus followers, we say he was saved. He's a believer. He's in the club. He's in right standing with God, okay? And it's like if I think about like Daniel with that. Remember Daniel he was like, I'll take the new name and I'll eat the food you guys want. And then when they had to bow down to Nebuchadnezzar, he's like, I won't do that. And this is totally different. Yahweh's like, no, you can do it. It's like, this isn't an instruction manual. Like when you read the scripture, it's not, if I do these things, is this the right? That's not what it is. It's a heart issue, man. It always is. And he's just letting this guy know that you are good. And I think there's a story in the gospel that nails this home. Okay, so Jesus references this story that I just said right here. He also mentions another story from Elijah as well, where he goes to a widow who is starving and has nothing left. She's going to prepare her final meal for her and her son before they die. And Elijah's there and he says, make me food first. And let me get into that. So this is from Luke 4. It mentions it in Matthew and Mark as well, but I think I'll just read from Luke for the sake of time. This is the scene where Jesus comes back to preach in his own hometown, his backyard. This is a big one. He grabs the Isaiah scroll. He says here, quote, and he came to Nazareth, Jesus, where he had been brought up. And as was his custom, he went into the synagogue on Sabbath day and he stood up to read. And the scroll of the prophet Isaiah was given to him. He unrolled the scroll and found the place where it was written, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim liberties to the captives and recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty those who are opposed, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. And he rolled up the scroll, gave it back to the attendant, and he sat down. And all of the eyes of the synagogue are on him. They're fixed on him. And he began to say, today, this scripture has been fulfilled in your hearing. Mic drop. And all spoke well of him at these gracious words coming out of his mouth. But they said, isn't that Joseph's son? Is that not Joseph's son? And he said to them, no doubt you will quote to me this proverb, physician, heal yourself. What we have heard you did in Capernaum, do here in your hometown as well. And he said, truly I say to you, no prophet is acceptable in their hometown. But I tell you the truth, there were many widows in Israel in the days of Elijah, when the heavens were shut for 3.5 years, and a great famine came over the land. And Elijah was sent to none of them, but only one, only Zarephath, in the land of Sidon, to a woman who was a widow. And there were also many lepers in Israel in the time of the prophet Elisha, and none of them were cleansed, except for Naaman the Syrian. And when they heard these things, all of the synagogue was filled with wrath, and they rose up and drove him out of town and brought him to the brow of a hill where their town was built so they could throw him off a cliff. But passing through their midst, he went away. End quote. Do you guys see that? Do you see what the crowd was asking here? They're saying, you've done these awesome things in Capernaum. Can you do some of those miracles here? We got problems here. Can we see some of the magic sauce? Jesus, we need healing. We got problems here. And Jesus did a few things there, but he didn't do everything he could. Why? Because Jesus was so shocked at their unbelief. And to turn the knife, he tells them these two stories. This is a fully Jewish audience. They know these stories. We don't know them. They know these stories. They've had to memorize them as kids. They know the scriptures. They know these two characters from history. And what they did was they had faith. And they know Jesus is saying here, I am shocked at your unbelief. You guys want miracles? Will that move the needle here? I'm not a genie. These two people had faith, and you are lacking, and they are furious. So much so that they take him to a cliff to throw him off and kill him. These stories are lost on us. They were kind of lost on me until I dug into them, but not to them. They know exactly what Jesus is saying. There were plenty of widows in Elijah's time. He only saved one. And there were plenty of lepers in the time of Elisha. He only saved one, Naaman. But it goes deeper than that. You know what else Zarephath from Sidon and Naaman from Syria have in common that would really fire these people up? They're pagans. Ugh. They're pagans. They're Gentiles like me. Okay? They're not sons and daughters of Abraham. They're not in the tribe. You see why that matters? The world that Jesus decided to step into had great division. These two people, according to an Israelite at the time, are technically cut off from the family. They don't have access to the knowledge, the teachings, the customs, the rituals that many of those audience would have thought would really help their salvation, their right standing with God. They don't even have a temple. No Bible. Naaman's not going to show up to temple or read from a scroll or a psalm or operate a festival or one of the feast days or know the sacred calendar of Israel. He's not circumcised. He doesn't know anything. In other words, Naaman brings nothing to the table. He's got nothing to offer but open hands. He's totally empty-handed. He's desperate. And his testimony in its totality is simply this: I was diseased. Now I am healed. The person responsible for that is Yahweh. That's it, the creator God, Jehovah. That's the one. That's who did that to me, and I'm thankful. And from now on, wherever I go and whatever offering I present, it will be to that God, because that is the one true God. And that's all I got. That's all I know. And guess what? Naaman would flunk a theology class. Does that make sense? Even if he went to a temple, which he's not going to, he's not even going to do any of the customs correct. He doesn't know how to do anything. And he asked Elisha, if I go into this pagan temple and kneel with a king to a rebel spiritual being, he says, is that okay? Is Yahweh okay with that? And Elisha says, yes. How is that possible? Because it seems to me what Jesus was saying is that your personal merit has nothing to do with this relationship. Tit for tat. That doesn't work in Yahweh's economy. Naaman didn't earn salvation. He didn't do anything. He just believed. He was like, I was like this. I met God. Now I'm like this. That's the test. I was blind. Now I can see. And now he has believing loyalty to God the Father. He will be following no other gods. He can't recite Genesis 1. He can't do anything. He just knows who this God is and that he loves him. And man, I feel like Christians today or Jesus followers today, we can get that same sensation. Yes, you need to be sensitive to sin. You need to be sensitive to sin. And why it is important. It's because it leads to death. And God hates death. It separates you from him. It wasn't part of the original plan. And he's been on a rescue mission for the image bearers ever since. But we don't win or lose salvation based on our behaviors of the day. Does that make sense? When we fall short, which we will, I've probably fallen short 10 times today. When we mess up, we lie, we cheat, we steal, we gossip, we rage, we covet our neighbor's possessions. You don't lose your salvation. If so, then David's in serious trouble. Because whatever you have done wrong in this earth, David has done worse. And he was called a man after God's own heart. That's why Jesus uses these two examples. It's your heart. It's not your performance. It's our relationship with the Father. If it was based on performance, we got problems. I have problems. And it takes away from Jesus what Jesus did on the cross for us. If we think that him dying on that cursed tree could be changed by how I perform, then we have missed the mark. The bar is set too high. All we need to do is get into our minds and hearts is that God doesn't think of us any differently. He's crazy about us. And this started in the garden when Adam fell short of the Father's instructions and he tries to hide. He tries to hide from God. We do the same thing. And God called to him and said, Adam, where are you? Where have you gone, my boy? Where are you? God knew where Adam was, man. Come on. It's an honorary calling to his boy. The perfect intimate relationship, it's been severed. Adam's in a reality crisis here. He's having a break. He's lost touch with the Father, walking and talking in the cool of the day. And Adam's story is every man's story. Somewhere in our story, the intimacy between father and son was severed. Sin created a break, and the accuser has had a field day ever since, setting out to prove that guilt and shame are non-negotiable. It's a lie. And he set out to destroy the perfect image of sonship and our identity as God's favorite thing he ever created. We're his favorite thing. And we got to go it alone. It's on us now, and we fail. Morgan Snyder says in his book, Becoming a King, the primary place we establish our core beliefs about God the Father is how our Father responded to us when we did something wrong. I'm going to say that one more time. The primary place we establish our core beliefs about God the Father is how our Father responded to us when we did something wrong. And in that book, there was a question asked to thousands of people across 5 continents for over a decade. How have you learned or experienced what a father is? When I say father, what word comes to mind? And you know what he heard? Distant, angry, absent, stressed, quiet, violent, at work, silent, worried, and self-sufficient. Guys, religious practices and principles, they can get you far. They can only get you so far. And you know that guy at church. You know that family at your church. They say all the right things. They come to every event. They know every song. But there's just something missing or something that kind of puts you off. And you sense it. And it turns you off. And you think, if that's what a good Christian is, then you can have it, dude. I'm out. And that is what Jesus is saying to this crowd. Do you see that? Being a Jesus follower is not, you don't get a new set of rules to live by. It's not heaven insurance. It's an invitation. It's an invitation to a new life. You're in the kingdom, man. A reality by which we walk with a loving Father, and we're able to not only navigate this life, man, but we strive. We thrive because you are a son who is known, who is seen, who is loved, who is fought for as you're maturing and being made whole again through the pursuit from your perfect Father in the skies. What if when horrible things happen to us, we don't think of it as proof that God hates us and he's not there, making agreements in our heart that I guess I'm on my own. I guess is all on me. I'm an orphan. What if the Father is pursuing us in those wounds? What if God is bringing us circumstances that we couldn't possibly handle on our own because that was never the plan? He wants to heal us, to restore us. You don't think you have what it takes. You can't bear this pain alone. You're not strong enough. I think these are the times in the whisper the Father is saying, get up. Get up, son. I'm so proud of you. I believe in you. Let's do this together. Let me in. I love you so much. When I thought of you before the heavens and the earth, I was so happy about it. And nothing has changed. Nothing you can do will ever change that. Now take my hand. We got this. I am Tyler Parker. Sunday School is out.